So my previous video where I covered every god's maximum damage output with abilities kinda blew up, so the only natural evolution will be every single god's maximum damage with a single auto attack. A lot of you guys suggested this in the comments and I thought it would be fun to look at too. As with the previous video, this one took way longer than any of my other videos with gathering data, calculations, recordings and all that for over 100 different gods, so if you think it's a novel concept and or you enjoyed the video, then please do subscribe for more like this and drop a like on the video. It validates me spending 10 hours working all this shit out and begging for crits on 25% chance, thank you. Here are the builds I'm using, one for magicals with Polynomicon and one for physicals with Hydra's Lament and crit. Naturally, this one is weighted more towards those physical gods with crit, but the previous one was weighted more towards magicals with ability damage, so it sort of evens out. And I'm only using item passives that directly affect auto attacks, so crit, Polynomicon and Hydras are all fine, but anything like Rangda's Max that just increases overall damage output I'm not going to be using as with the first video. Also, it might seem obvious, but this is their maximum damage output on their own with no assistance from teammates against a single enemy. If you added in allies with auras and damage increases and all that stuff, it would get even more complicated than it already is. I don't need that. So people suggested on my previous video that some gameplay of the actual gods doing the damage themselves in game would make the video more appealing, and since this is just for one single auto attack, I think that fits quite well. So after my top 10 and honorable mentions, I'll have all of my footage showing every single god in the game if you want to look for a specific god in there or just validate my testing. So the first really interesting one really quick before we get into the top 10 was Jormungandr. Due to the way Jorm's basic attacks work, a single auto attack does very little damage because he hits so fast. On top of that, he physically can't proc Polynomicon at all, so his total damage actually came out to just 85. I thought that one was quite funny. But moving on to the top 10. So claiming the first top 10 spot is BATZ with 1854 damage. Of course, as with every physical entry, this is making use of Deathbringer crits and Hydra's passive where possible. With his new passive, BATZ does just slightly more damage in this sort of testing environment and just makes it into the top 10 spot where he otherwise might not have done. Achilles comes in at number 9 with 1897 damage. This larger number on a warrior is mostly down to Achilles' 2 power boosts within his kit, meaning he operates at a higher power value than most of the other gods even with the exact same build. Wearing no armor and activating Achilles 2 gives him around 50 bonus power, which with crit and Hydras factored in results in some pretty high damage numbers for a warrior. Number 8 and the first to break 2000 damage in one auto attack is ARACHNE coming in with 2050. ARACHNE's 1 was really the carry here, being that it does a hefty chunk of bonus damage on auto attack hits and doesn't reset her attack chain, which is crucial. ARACHNE's attack progression goes 0.5, 1, 1 damage in swing time. So her first auto attack, while fast, is at half damage compared to the rest. Meaning if ARACHNE's 1 reset her attack chain, she'd be hitting for half damage. But of course, this doesn't affect your current attack progression with ARACHNE, and you can hit a full 1 times damage swing while also proccing Hydras and her 1, meaning she breaks the top 10 in this video. If it were not for that specific interaction, she definitely would have not broken top 10. And 7 damage higher than ARACHNE, we have Nejah at number 7, doing 2057 damage with the last hit of his attack chain. This is one of a few examples where Hydra's Lament was actually reducing the damage done. It sounds counterintuitive, but Hydra's is 40% bonus damage, so effectively 1.4 times damage, whereas Nejah's last hit of his attack chain does 2 times damage or 100% bonus, which is much larger than the Hydra's passive. So if you ever see me not using Hydra's on a god in this video, that's the reason for it. So even though we don't get to use Hydra's, that 2 times damage swing from Nejah on a crit is still incredibly strong and it's enough to carry him through. A decent jump here to number 6 with DAJI doing 2198 damage. This is a combination of her passive that applies a small bleed to enemies on auto attack hits, and also her 1 which does some solid burst damage and then additional tick damage over 3 seconds. Combine all these damaging factors onto a Hydra's boosted crit auto attack on a 1-time swing chain, and DAJI does pretty well for herself here. Coming in at number 5, we have someone you probably guessed would make the top 10, that being Mercury with his 2203 damage. Mercury is nicknamed the One Punch Man for a reason, and he can hit insanely hard with a single auto attack due to his passive buffing his next auto after moving, and also giving him bonus power from movement speed. Activate Hydras and a Deathbringer crit, and Bob's your uncle, Mercury hits hard. Who would have guessed? Okay, moving on. However, if you told me AWILIX would outdamage Mercury in a single auto attack fight before making this video, I would have called you crazy, but that's exactly what happened. The number 4 spot is taken by AWILIX with 2255 damage. This number is really a combination of her passive giving her 30% bonus power when engaging first out of combat, and also her ultimate which gives an insane 60 power steroid on its own. Combine the two and you have a monstrous attack power that makes it to the top half of this list. Speaking of surprising entries, who would have guessed Odin would be at number 3? Certainly not me, so if you did then congratulations. But how, you might ask, does a god with no auto attack steroid make it to the top 3 on a most damaging auto attack video? Well, the answer is a shit ton of bonus power both from his actual passive and his ultimate passive. 10 kills inside Odin's ring for 5 power each is 50 bonus right there. Add the passive power, which is 40% bonus at full stacks, and you've got a thick Allfather ready to pummel his enemies into the ground. Solid performance from an unexpected entry here. The number 2 spot is firmly claimed by Bellona with 2,522 damage. We're really getting up there now. Most of Bellona's damage comes from her hammer after using bludgeon. The hammer does 1.5 times the normal auto attack damage for Bellona, and so adding that onto a crit Hydra's auto means she does some serious damage. It also doesn't hurt to have 50 bonus power from her flag too though. That extra 50 power really tipped her over the top into the number 2 spot. Without it, she'd be much lower on this list. And finally we've reached it, the most damaging single auto attack in the game. And I'm sorry, but it's Loki. Yeah, I'm not trolling, this is real. Loki's damage in my testing came to 2,671, way above even second place at 2,522. An interesting misunderstanding / myth about Loki that many people still seem to believe is that he lands automatic critical hits in the target's back. This isn't true, it's just a 20% damage bonus, which for the purposes of this testing is actually much better, since I was guaranteeing crits anyway. Having 20% bonus backstab on top of aim strike and his tick damage from vanish means he basically gets damage from about 6 different sources. All added up, it comes to 2,671 and grants him the title of highest damaging single auto attack in the game. But that's it from my beautiful voice for the rest of this video. There will be footage of every god coming up if you are keen on exactly how I did my testing or want to see a specific god, so I'd really appreciate it if you stuck around for that, since this took me a long time to get the footage for over 100 gods. Regardless, I'll catch you guys in another video later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.